Good afternoon. Welcome to the webcast on processing a claim for death benefits of a deceased federal employee. My name is Janet Bass, and I'm the Chief of the Survivor Claims Branch with Retirement Services here at OPM. Some of the objectives today that we hope to accomplish are sharing information with you that is helpful in preparing a complete and accurate death claim package for OPM, answering any questions that you may have on processing a claim for death benefits of a deceased federal employee, and last but not least, developing a dialogue with you in which we can partner to provide accurate and timely benefits to the survivors and heirs of our colleagues who have served the federal government. You may submit your questions to benefits@opm.gov with a subject line of death claims, and we will provide individual responses within 36 hours, as well as publish our responses to all questions that were submitted during the broadcast. Now I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Rogers, who is a legal administrative specialist in the Survivor Claims Branch and who processes deceased employee claims. Lisa will be delivering the presentation today. I hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon. I need to ask that you be patient with me because the content of what I'm saying may not be on the sheets that you're reading, the same pages. I'm going to summarize everything so I don't have to bore you reading it word for word. OPM is updating the information because we continue to receive a high percentage of cases that require further development before we can authorize survivor payments. We are requesting help from agencies to reduce the processing time it takes to adjudicate the death in service claims. This is a recap of information that OPM worked on with the Department of Navy, but it also provides current information to the prior BAL dated May 10th of 2000 titled New Procedures to Expedite Payments to Spouses of Federal Employees Who Have Died, and the BAL that you're reading from, which is BAL 09-102 dated May 26, 2009 with the same name. We still feel the Department of Navy's guidelines are very helpful and should be used by other agencies. We know that the procedures will vary between the agencies, but the majority of the information this covers may be beneficial, and if followed up, it will help OPM to expedite payments to the survivors. Please remember that submissions of complete, accurate information and documentation is vitally important in order for OPM to adjudicate the claims benefits in a timelier manner. It will help you, the agencies, and OPM, both by decreasing phone calls and inquiries if payments are being made sooner than we are currently able to provide. Attached, we have 6 different documents included that we will be summarizing. We hope the documents serve as models for all federal agencies to utilize upon the death of a federal employee. And thank you for your continued hard work and support. Attachment 1 is general instructions to the agency. Attachment 2 will be summary of benefits checklist. Attachment 3 is the preliminary information to OFEGLI. Attachment 4 is the election regarding the method of payment for unpaid compensation. Attachment 5 will show SIRS and FERS death in service quick pay sheets. And attachment 6 is the employee death case summary. For attachment 1, processing the death of a federal employee, the general instructions. Normally, it's the current spouse or a family member of the deceased employee that notifies the agency of the death. There are a number of documents the survivor needs to complete, which the agency can assist with to ensure the survivor receives their benefits in a more timely manner. Attached to this information is a primary references to help the agency representatives, and most of the forms can be found on OPM's website. For phase 1, initial contact with the survivor, you want to place a call to the spouse or other survivors who notified the agency of the death and make sure to convey your sympathy. Make sure you provide your name, your email address, your phone number, and print legibly. We do receive a lot of feedback from survivors saying they cannot contact an agency. They have no way of knowing who they're working with, who is the person handling their claim, because this is not provided, and we at OPM cannot read it either. Make sure when you contact this person, you get their general information you can use on the quick pay forms, and provide them with information such as the SIRS or FERS benefits, the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, unpaid compensation, health benefits, and the Thrift Savings Plan, if these apply. You want to explain timeframes. If first, please explain the basic employee death benefit if they're entitled to it. These are available to the survivors, and they have multiple options. As a survivor filling out the basic employee death benefit election, which is page 15 of the 3104B, you need to help them fill this out, making sure that they are included with the death claim packages, because if they are not included, it will cause a delay. We will have to develop for those. Please keep in mind that a rollover of the basic employee death benefit to the Thrift Savings Plan has to be the survivor's own account as an employee currently. It cannot be a surviving account as a beneficiary. And finally, you need to establish a time frame for counseling after you review the OPF. If the death was work-related, make sure you contacted the Human Resources Office or Workers' Compensation Office if this has not already been done. And you want to request the OPF. If this is not received within 4 days, you want to follow up on that original request. If you're unable to get it after that, please elevate the request. When the OPF is received, you want to review the OPF for the health benefit information, for the Federal Employee Group life insurance information, the Thrift Savings Plan, unpaid compensation, and if needed, any workers' compensation claims. Then you're going to process it as indicated coming up in phase 2. Verify if there are any designations in the OPF. Please make sure that all designations are sent to OPM. If it is a SERS designation or a FERS designation, please send all designations to us. Phase 2 is review of the OPF. First one is the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance. If the deceased employee was enrolled in OFEGLE, you want to review the OPF for the current options, their effective dates, and the actual coverage amounts. Prepare an SF-2821, which is an agency certification of insurance, with the correct information, and supply any forms that OFEGLE is needed for that part. On this 2821, pages 1 and 2 go to the OFEGLE, and page 3 remains in the OPF. You want to prepare the 2819, which is Notice of Conversion Privileges, only if there's Option C benefits available for the family coverage, and this is also sent to OFEGLE. You will send Part 1 to the survivor with a condolence letter, and then you'll put Part 2 in the OPF. You're going to send all original SF-2823s or SF-54s, which are designation of beneficiary forms, the RI-7610, which is assignment of FEGLE, and the court orders that are in the OPF. Also send all original 2818s and 176s from the OPF, but keep the original forms you are sending from OFEGLE as a copy. Make sure you put those back in the OPF. Basically, to sum that up, you're going to send all original life insurance forms, court orders, and a death certificate, if provided, to OFEGLE, but you're going to keep copies of everything for the OPF. You'll complete the preliminary information to OFEGLE regarding the death of an employee by following the attachment 3 of this BOW, and assemble according to the information you can see on this page. These forms are then going to be forwarded to the address in Scranton, PA, and please make note that as of April 1st, 2014, this is the new address for overnight deliveries. For number 2, the retirement system, you're going to verify the current retirement coverage. Please make sure that if it is a FERCA situation, you will provide counseling for the survivor pertaining to any FERCA case. You want to verify the service computation date for processing of the SERS claims. Again, make sure that all designations are out of the OPF. Keep in mind that SERS designations are only valid if they are received and validated by OPM prior to the death of the employee. They are never to be maintained in the OPF. These are to be forwarded immediately to OPM upon completion from the employee. If any SERS designations are received after death, they are not considered valid and will not be used. Determine if military service is involved. If this service is after 1956, has a deposit been made for the service, or do they even want to make one? If it has been paid, we need to make sure that the payment has been sent to OPM. We need to know if the survivor is entitled to a monthly survivor benefit and if all DD-214s are being forwarded to OPM. If the DD-214s are not in the OPF, you need to request this from the survivor. Delaying and requesting these will cause OPM to have to develop for them, and again, it will cause a delay in the case. If the employee's was a SERS or SERS offset, you'll use the application for death benefits, which is Section 2 of the SF 2800A. And if it's a FERS case, you'll use Section 4 of the 3104B for the election opportunities for the military. You're going to want to compute both cases with and without the military to show the survivor if making a deposit is to their advantage or not. This way they make an informed decision. If the surviving spouse is unsure of their entitlement to a survivor military benefit, you'll need to complete the RI 2545, the verification of military retired pay status for survivors of deceased federal employees, and a copy of this form should be sent to OPM for each case that involves military retirement pay. Whether the survivor is entitled or not, we do need a copy of this. Again, delaying and sending this with it will cause a delay in our processing. If under SERS, please remember to advise the survivor to contact the Social Security Administration to determine if their benefits will affect our survivor benefits that we are going to pay them. And their number is listed on there along with their website. If the survivor is electing to make the deposit, you're going to need to complete the application, which is SF 2803 for SERS and a 3108 for FERS. You're going to send that application with a copy of the RI 20-97, which is estimated earnings during military service. Again, all DD-214s. If not in there, please request one from the survivor. And an estimate to the agency's payroll provider. To include a copy of all these forms with the information you're sending so that it will be forwarded to OPM. All deposits must be made in a lump sum payment. Monthly payments or any other type of payments will not be accepted. And please stress to the survivor, do not forward these payments to OPM because we do not process them. It will delay it, we will have to return it, and then it will be forwarded to the proper payroll provider. If a partial payment was made from the employee at the time of death or prior to the time of death, the survivor does not want to finish making that payment, they can request a refund of that by writing into the office. All payments that are paid in full need to have a pay card sent to OPM Retirement Operations Center as soon as it has been paid. And you'll want to complete Section 1 of SF 2800A or 3104B, the Certified Summary of Service. If there is an eligible survivor or child for monthly benefit, prepare an estimate including, again, deposits for the military service, if applicable. You'll compute, again, both with and without so they can make the informed decision. If there are children between the ages of 18 and 22 and are full-time students, you'll send the RI 2541, which is the initial certification of full-time school attendance, to the student, spouse, or guardian. Please make sure to indicate that these are per semester only forms. Do not combine spring with fall or fall with spring because each semester has to be certified individually. Also keep in mind that benefits for children between the ages of 18 and 22, student benefits, may be impacted by minor children who are receiving benefits from the Social Security Administration. This is going to be described further in page 3 of attachment 2. If no survivors are eligible for an annuity or a basic employee death benefit, no computation is needed. A lump sum of the payments for the contributions and interest will be paid out according to the order of precedence. Federal employee health benefits. If the deceased carried self and family and there is an eligible survivor, you will remove all the health benefit forms, any medical certificates, and documentation from the OPF. Make copies of these forms and send them with the death package, but keep originals in the OPF. Remember that children between the ages of 22 and 26 are now eligible to continue coverage as a dependent if someone else is eligible for that coverage. If the deceased was in self-only coverage, you have to terminate the self-only benefits by completing an SF 2810. This is done by the agency, who will put remarks in the section showing enrollee died and their date of death. The effective date to terminate is the last day of the pay period in which the employee died. And make sure to mail copies to the appropriate agencies, keeping a copy number 4 for the OPF. The termination of self-only coverage has to be done by the agency and not by OPM, and we will send you a 79-09 requesting this be done. We are getting quite a lot of these that are not done. If a minor child or children are eligible for health benefits under the FERS, please have the parent or guardian complete health benefit election part, which is Section 3, page 2, or pardon me, Section 3, page 6 on the 3104B, so the benefits can begin immediately. If the deceased had no coverage at the time of death, leave all the health benefit forms in the OPF. The next page is dealing with the thrift savings plan. There are instructions given here, but any questions should be handled by the thrift savings office, and their number is there and their website. OPM is unable to assist with information because we do not know their rules and regulations. The following page is where unpaid compensation is explained, and again, because agencies have their own regulations, you will need to follow up with your agency to determine what those are to verify that you're processing this correctly. Like thrift savings, OPM does not handle the unpaid compensation, so you need to deal directly with these agencies, your individual agency, for the answers. Just make sure that the thrift savings plan form and the unpaid compensation forms do not come to OPM. This will, again, cause a delay in their processing because we do not handle these forms. They will be returned for them to process. On phase 3, sending the condolence letter to the survivor. Complete and send the summary of benefits checklist, which is attachment 2, with a condolence letter, all the applicable forms, and annuity estimates to the survivor. The estimate, again, is depending on if there's civilian or military deposits to be considered. You'll send both runs of those payments. Send one complete appropriate package for each survivor who may be eligible for benefits. Make sure to keep in touch with the survivor to answer any questions they may have. Please include your name, phone number, email, contact information, and please make it legible so that they can read it and they know who they're dealing with. This will also help OPM when we receive the package be able to contact someone that we need help with. For phase 4 is to complete the OPM's quick pay. If there's a current spouse eligible for annuity, the preferred method of sending the quick pay form is the OPM's online application. The OPM address is listed for you to refer to. And please note, the quick pay is to be used to notify OPM of the death as a means to determine the spouse's eligibility for interim payments, but not solely for the notification of death. If you don't want to do the online method, you can complete and fax the SERS or FERS quick pay form, which is attachment number 5 of this BOW, and you can fax it to the 2 numbers listed here for OPM's office. Also note that the form has been revised as of May 2014. Previous and or altered editions from the form are not usable and will be returned. Phase number 5, prepare the SF-50. You're going to create and process the SF-50, which is the notification of personal action after the death. The SF-50 allows the payroll office to cut the final payroll card showing it as a death payment. If this is not finished when the package is ready to be sent to the payroll office, forward it as soon as possible so that that can be sent to OPM in a timely manner. Phase number 6 is follow up with the survivor or survivors if necessary. If there's no response from the survivor within 10 days, you should try to contact them again to make sure that they don't need assistance in returning their completed forms. Phase number 7 is mailing retirement documentation to OPM via the payroll office. You want to forward all prepared required documentation to OPM via the payroll office, but make sure you keep copies of everything you're sending, all the paperwork in the case file. This will assist OPM later if some of the paperwork happens to be not returned with the retirement or the death package. Sometimes they get lost, shuffled, mixed, but this will help us be able to get at least a copy of what you originally sent. Include the preliminary info to the OPM regarding the death of an employee, the final SF-50, the certified summary of service, agency information and certification, all original designation forms, copies of all the health benefit forms in the OPF, and then payroll performance required actions, and submit the entire package to us. Hopefully it's the entire completed package. Please remember that much like retirements, we do need you to submit the application with all the records. One without the other will delay the processing. It is essential that OPM and payroll office communicate with each other on the death of the employee. What we have found is that one office is not always communicating with the other and has not been informed of the death. As a result, we see untimely submissions of the package. Phase number 8 is mail the claim form for unpaid compensation to the payroll office. And again, since this is not an OPM function, you will need to regard your agency's regulations in order to accomplish this. Just please do not forward this information to OPM. And on phase 9, you'll close the case, make sure all action items are updated and closed, then you can shred your working folder, not the OPF. Never shred the OPF, just your working folder after 6 months of the date of the last activity. Hopefully OPM will not need documentation from it because we have been able to get a complete package for processing, and that has been the goal of this whole process. The primary references. This page shows that you can refer to the information given below as guidance for the processing death of benefits of a federal employee. It can be used as a handy guide when needed to make the process easier for you. It covers everything from federal employee health benefits, federal employee group life insurance, court orders, the CSRS and FERS handbook, and applications and forms used. For attachment 2, the summary of benefits checklist upon the death of a federal employee. This information is to be filled out using everything that applies and provided to the survivor as a guidance, and it also provides information they can refer to receive the benefits they are eligible for. It deals with federal employee group life insurance coverage and provides a mailing address and phone number for that office. It also gives information on how those payments are distributed, and it will indicate if there's family coverage or even what type of life insurance is available to them. Please make sure the coverage when filling this out is correct. Benefits from the retirement system, the survivor annuity and lump sum benefits. This page needs filled out based on whether the deceased was a CSRS or FERS employee. Please mark the appropriate block that shows the survivor what they are, or in some cases what they are not eligible for, and fill out the estimated basic employee death benefit amount if needed. Also keep in mind that the 3104's most recent edition has been revised as of May 2013. Computation of survivor annuity. This page also needs filled out according to what the survivor is entitled to. Indicate the appropriate blocks as to what pertains for the benefit. Again, make sure that the name, phone number, email address, and contact information you provide is legible and is included. This will assist the assist the survivor in getting hold of the agency and give OPM a proper contact if needed. Monthly benefits for children. This page is filled out according to what any child or children may be entitled to, and it should be provided to the survivors only if needed. Do not give it to them if they have no children eligible. Please be aware that the rates for 2014 are currently $502 per child, up to a maximum of $1,506 per family for the single orphan rate. And it's $601 per child, up to a maximum of $1,803 for the double orphan rate for the family. If there are any child or children eligible for benefits, we will need a copy of each child's birth certificate. It should show the deceased name. Also make sure to indicate that the survivor by checking the block for them to apply to the Social Security Administration if needed. This has to be done in order for us to determine if a minor child is payable or not. And last reminder, if there is a student child who may be eligible after taking into account any minor child benefits from the Social Security office, the RI 25-41 school attendance form still needs to be filled out. But again, do not combine spring with fall and fall with spring semesters. They have to have each their own certified form. Forms to file for benefits from the retirement system. Indicate on this page again whether it's CSRS or FERS, and if it's whether the CSRS or FERS application is needed by checking the appropriate block. Also make sure the survivor knows if the deceased had any prior marriages during the time of employment with the federal government, that they need to send a copy of each divorce, including all pages, attachments, settlements, all pages of each divorce for each spouse need forwarded to OPM. Failure to do this will cause a delay because OPM is unable to pay a current spouse's benefits until we determine the eligibility of any former spouse. Also stress to the survivor they need to provide us with copies of the marriage certificate for the current spouse and the death certificate indicating the manner of death. It cannot say pending. If it says pending, we will request an amended death certificate. Note that any widow or widower who is entitled to benefits for themselves and who also has a child or children eligible, you only need to fill out one application. If that child is an adult, a disabled child, or student child that would like the funds in their own name, they will then need to fill out their own application. And if they are a student, they will be the ones to sign the RI 2541 student certification form. Status of processing benefits by OPM. This page provides information by which to contact OPM. It indicates please allow sufficient time for OPM to process your application. Our goal is currently 60 days from receipt of a complete package. Again, remember we are much like retirements in that we need to have both the entire death package and application. One without the other will cause a delay. The Thrift Savings Plan. This page needs to be marked by according to what the survivor is eligible for. And please stress the importance of contacting the Thrift Savings Office if you want to enroll the basic employee death benefit over into the Thrift Savings Plan. This account has to be their own active federal account as an employee, and it cannot be a beneficiary account based on the deceased being their spouse. If they would like to roll these funds over, they need to apply using the Thrift Savings Plan 60 form. This and any further information can be provided by the Thrift Savings Plan at their contact number given at that page. For unpaid compensation, this page is again filled out by each agency according to their own guidelines. Please make sure that you stress these forms are not to be sent to OPM, and you can do this by filling out the appropriate agency address at the bottom of the page. Again, please do not put OPM's address at the bottom of the page. Federal Employees Health Benefits. Please mark the appropriate block on this page as to what coverage may or may not be available to the survivor. If there is only self-coverage benefit at the time of death, remember to terminate that coverage. This was explained in the prior BOW, but again, we are still receiving a lot of these that are not done. It will be returned to you asking with a 79-9 for you to terminate it. Additional information. This page is basically a recap of the information that is possibly needed by OPM to process the survivor benefits. It covers information for the current spouse, the former spouse, children, parents of the deceased, and the executor of the deceased estate. Please review each group and make sure to stress that all pages of any documentation needs to be sent to OPM if appropriate. Not providing all pages when needed will cause a delay in your benefits. Questions. This page is self-explanatory. It provides information as to where to get help. And as it indicates in the note on the bottom, you can visit the OPM website where most claim forms can be found and downloaded. All questions received during this webinar will be addressed online for your information. And attachment 3. This page consists of information regarding OFEGLI. And please fill out completely the appropriate lines and make sure to indicate which forms and documentation you attach. Page number 4. This again is a page for unpaid compensation. You'll need to fill it out according to your own agency's guidelines. Attachment number 5. These are the CSRS and FERS Death in Service Quick Pay Sheets, revised May of 2014. Please make sure to fill out completely and with accurate information where necessary. Lack of information on this form will cause OPM to not be able to provide interim payments to the survivor. Also remember, previous additions or modifications will not be accepted. OPM will return the form and not process the interim payment. Attachment 6. This is the employee death case summary. It will detail all the steps you took to process the completed death and service claim. It's a good tool to use to verify all the information required has been included. It will help you make sure that nothing has been missed in completing the death package when being sent in. Please keep a copy of this record in your OPF so information, if needed further down the road, can be received and we'll be able to tell what was originally done. This concludes the presentation portion. Now we're going to have Janet Bass back to provide some closing remarks. Thank you.
As Lisa said, this concludes our presentation today. I do want to make you all aware that unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, we were not able to field questions during the live stream. However, we have been receiving your questions at benefits@opm.gov, and we will be responding to those, as I said earlier, individually, and then posting all questions with a response out on the web for you. Just as a reminder, I would ask you to please continue to use your network within your internal agency to the benefit officers, and as well to use the resource that we have here at OPM, our Benefit Officers Training and Development Group, led by Sharon Appel, for any case inquiries or things of that nature. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today, and we look forward to hearing from you.